See me on here doing the junkyard crawl at Berniston Auto Wrecking in Berniston, Massachusetts with a very important car. This is a 1951 Oldsmobile 88, the Rocket 88. 51 is the third model year that Oldsmobile had its own post-war overhead valve V8 engine, 1949, 50, 51. Cadillac also had a very similar engine. They called the Kettering V8s, wedge heads, and these basically revolutionized hot rodding and the auto industry, really. Cadillac and Oldsmobile, 1949. Immediately thereafter, every car maker came up with their own version of an overhead valve pushrod V8. But here it is, right here in the beginning. Now, 1950, you could still get a six-cylinder engine in an Oldsmobile, but from 51 on, Oldsmobile committed to V8 power in every Oldsmobile until 1964 when the six-banger finally came back. So the 50s were all about V8 power and Oldsmobile was right there leading the way. Now this one is a basic engine with a two-barrel carburetor. This one makes 135 horsepower. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that was about 25 horsepower more than a Ford flathead. And the big thing is, when I say flathead, I'm talking about an engine that has the ports and the valves in the block, very asthmatic compared to the overhead valve engines. What do we mean by that? Well, here are the valves right here. That's exhaust, that's intake, etc. The valves are actually down. They go into the combustion chamber and the cylinder from above, and much better breathing capabilities. A cross flow head, the intake charge comes in this way, gets burnt, the exhaust comes out that way. It's a cross-flow head versus the flathead, which basically was constipated because the fuel air charge had to go in and come out the same side, make a turn inside of the engine. And again, this is called an over-square design, wherein the bore is larger than the stroke. In the case of the 303 Oldsmobile, the bore is 3.75 inches and the stroke is 3.43. So the bore again is larger than the stroke, which means shorter stroke, less friction, capable of higher RPM operation. By contrast, under-square engines have a longer stroke than bore. Think pre-war inline sixes and eights. There were engines that weren't meant to go over 3,000 RPMs. But the over-square modern overhead valve V8 really put Detroit into the horsepower race. And here is 1951, third model year. Now the four-barrel carburetor was an option on the 98 in 1951. But here's the thing, the 88 was actually a smaller car. It was based on the A-body platform. The 98 was a larger, heavier car. So when this engine went into the 88, the smaller one, it became the Rocket 88. And in fact, Ike Turner of Ike and Tina Turner Review, etc., he wrote a song in 1951 called Rocket 88. And it was regarded as the first rock and roll song ever. So this is basically an engine that had songs written about it long before the Beach Boys were singing about 409s. So take it in, it's very cool. Now, here we see the drum brakes. These are 11-inch drums, and unlike Chrysler products of the day and certain other, I think the Buick, which had bolts, this does have traditional stud and nut mounting. And so it's more conventional. But again, over at Chrysler and I think at Buick and Packard, they used bolts. And in some of the other junkyard crawl videos here, we saw some of that type of architecture. But here we have drum brakes, no disc brakes in 1951 out of Oldsmobile. But at Chrysler, you could get the Oscar Lambert disc brakes in the Imperial all the way around. So disc brakes at Chrysler, yes, in 1951. But here we have it. This is a four-door. We take a peek inside and check out the Jukebox inspired instrument panel with a 110-mile-an-hour speedometer, which is really not that unrealistic. This probably would easily go 110. And I love this song, Rocket 88, again, by Ike Turner. The lyrics go, V8 motor and modern design, convertible top and the girls don't mind. Now this is a four-door, but you could get the Rocket 88 in a two-door or a convertible. And here is an issue of Hot Rod magazine right here from May 1952. And today is, what, May 27th or 28th, 2002. This is 70 years old. Crazy. I was at Hot Rod magazine from 1998 through 2005 as tech editor, and that's almost 20 years ago now, which is crazy to think. But this is a 70-year-old issue of Hot Rod. Inside, we can see here 66 more horsepower, or percent more horsepower for the Olds 88 by Don Francisco. Let's take a peek and see what they did. Here's the story. And inside, here's the guys, Don Francisco, and the other fellow there, don't throw rocks at your rocket, they say. And there's the guys putting on a dual carburetor manifold. And we'll go to the next page and check out exactly what they did. And here it is, the bottom left picture. There it is, an Edmunds two-barrel carburetor intake. And according to the chart next to it, the stock Olds made 91 horsepower at 2100 RPM or 2800 RPM, and at 4500, 154 horsepower with the dual carbs. So they picked up 66%. And it's funny, this picture here, we see the guys on the chassis dyno standing on the bumper to get traction. And there again, chassis dyno in 1951. There it is 70 years ago, or 52, 70 years ago. And it's crazy here is the acceleration. The stock 1950 Olds 88, it's fastback, pretty car. But again, the stock went 0 to 60 in 12.22 seconds, but after the twin carbs, 9.7 seconds. And again, the Rocket 88 was a pretty darn quick car. And again, it was a 303 V8, which ordinarily powered the big 98, but it was in the 88, a smaller platform. Some say the first muscle car was the 1949 Olds Rocket 88. And by 1952, they weren't that much heavier, or 1951, excuse me, this one here. But you look at the rear window, the wraparound window in 3 pieces, which is getting there. Again, the wraparound glass technology was in its infancy, so Oldsmobile had a 3-piece deal with these divisions right here. Trunk is pretty darn big. Just very large. Now the crazy thing is another lyric in Ike Turner's song, Rocket 88, is boozing and cruising along in my Rocket 88. And a little politically incorrect, the boozing and cruising along. But if this car could only talk, the stories it would have to tell. But now, well, the back seat's full of hubcaps, and what an assortment. We see a Chevy Biscayne hubcap here, 57 Chrysler hubcap over there. A Ford Falcon hubcap down on the floor there. That's about a 66 Falcon hubcap. And this car is an amazing piece of, well, it's a time capsule in a way, you know. But again, 1951, the first year that Oldsmobile went all out, no more 6 cylinders, all V8s, all of them 303s, some 4 barrels, and of course the 324 would arrive the next year and then grow ultimately to 425 cubic inches, 394, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the beginning right here of Oldsmobile's V8 dynasty. And you got to remember too that Chrysler came out with their Hemi in 51, Studebaker their V8 in 1950, Buick 1953 finally with a V8. Packard was last in line. 1955 is they waited till then to come out with a V8. That cost them dearly. With that said, here it is, man, the beginnings of the Rocket 88, an engine that even Ike Turner wrote about. And again, the Beach Boys sang about the 409 a decade after Ike Turner was writing about the Rocket 88, which again is apparently history's first rock and roll song, 1951, Rocket 88 by Ike Turner. So that's the story of this puppy right here. Will this one ever run again? I don't know. But with that said, this 303 would make a nice rat rod motor. Probably rebuildable, I would guess. But to see more videos like this one, well, subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. There's plenty more to come here at Dynasty Auto Wrecking.